Great group. We're going to have somebody donate the money for more tables. Anybody want to do that? Just kidding. Thanks for coming out. This is such wonderful Idaho weather. Don't we just love it? Come on, guys. We live here. You know, we have to love it. It's got to be the power of positive thinking here. We can't all be in Palm Springs or Miami, Florida at the same time. Nice to have you here. Thank you so much. Let's start our morning. If Bull would come on up with our pledge to our wonderful, wonderful flag. For those of you that are new, we pledged the allegiance to on the south end is our large, beautiful 1948 star flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We don't have our Christmas tree up yet, but that's going up this week. And so we'll leave it up through the next one in January so that you can all see it. It's the Medal of Honor tree that was donated last year to the museum. It's absolutely beautiful, and it'll be placed over by the P40 here. That's where we had it last year, and Lou does a beautiful display around it, and the tree itself is absolutely gorgeous. It's an honor to have it here, and so we'll be putting that up this week, so drop in and take a look, or we'll leave it up through the January Kilroy so everybody can see it then too. Let's see, a couple of announcements. I had a wonderful talk with the head of the Boise Civil Air Patrol Squadron. They are working very hard to get as many wreaths as possible to put on all of the veteran cemeteries in the area. And so I've printed off a whole bunch of forms. If anyone is interested in throwing $20 their way, then you will sponsor a wreath that will be put on a veteran's cemetery. So I've got a whole bunch of those over there on the table where Larry Gockel has a table, and just go ahead and grab one and take it with you. If you need any more information, it's all on here, and there's a phone number here too. So it's a great thing for us all to do. Let's see. I want to thank right off the bat all of our volunteers. Let's give them a big applaud. Without them here at 7 o'clock or 7:30 this morning. And if you guys at all, men and women, raise your hands that are the volunteers that help do this. They're just all over the place here. And so, boy, you all are wonderful. Without them, believe me, I wouldn't be able to do it all. So they are awesome. I want to thank Tom Boyer for his coffee. Those of you that are drinking that wonderful coffee, he donates that to our Kilroy every single time. Is Tom here? Not this time? Okay. Well, we'll get him one day to stand up and so we can all thank him. And then Terry is here from Cloverdale. He is helping to sponsor this morning. Where's Terry? Terry. Stand up, Terry. We can't see your hand. There he is. Thank you so much, Terry. He is so dedicated to Idaho veterans. It's incredible, the support that Cloverdale gives so many different groups. We do need more sponsors for next year for this event. It's a really easy thing to do, and it's not a lot of money, but it sure helps us with the cost. And so if you're interested in being a sponsor, just call the museum, talk to Heather. She's right over here. Give us a call. It would just be great to have other people, or if you know of people who would like to sponsor one of the Kilroy mornings, then just have them give us a call. There are a lot of businesses that like to do it. So if you know of anybody, have them give us a buzz. And then the last thing, but not the least important, is membership. I don't know how many of you have yet joined the museum, but boy, if you haven't, we hope you'll join our family here. It's a nominal amount of money. It's $35 per person for a year, or $60 for a family, and that includes free admission the whole year and some other discounts and that sort of thing. So it really helps the museum. We appreciate if you haven't joined that you would. It also helps me with my grant writing, believe it or not. So 'tis the season, so we'd love, or give it as a gift. It's a great gift to give somebody. Okay, let's start off with, where's Andy? Okay, I have no idea what this is going to be. I got to tell you.
Okay.
You better behave yourself.
I will behave myself. Oh, well, two guys were sitting in a boat on a lake fishing and drinking beer, and one of them said to the other, he says, I'm thinking about divorcing my wife. She hadn't spoken to me in 6 weeks. And the other guy thought a little while, and he took a drink of beer and says, if I were you, I'd give that some pretty urgent consideration. He says, women are like that are hard to find.
Okay, gals, it's your turn next month. I expect at least one of you to stand up with something. Or God help you all have to do it. Then John Paul's in real trouble. Okay, new people. Let's go with new people. Please raise your hand, or if you brought a guest, raise your hand to introduce them. We love having new people join us here at Kilroy. I'll scoot by you here, Jack. Okay, could you just stand for us, Earl? This is Earl. Okay, that's all right.
My name's Earl Wayland. I served in the Vietnam War from 1960 to 1968. I live here in Boise from California and Oregon, but I've been here for 8 years. First time here, plan on being back.
Great, thank you so much, sir. We are so happy to have you here. And Heather's going to give you a bumper sticker and an envelope. The envelopes that you're getting, by the way, are our Veterans History Project program here at the Warhawk. For those of you that are new, this is one of the most important things we do here. We have veterans come here to the museum, and we have the veteran tell his or her story on film, so it can be preserved forever in your words. It's a critical program the United States has. It's all over the country, and we are one of the most aggressive in getting these stories, and it's put on film. We've sent almost 1,000 to the Library of Congress now. So please, the envelope you're getting, please fill it out, leave it with us, and we will get you here to tell your story. Okay, there's someone right here. Can you stand? Okay, can you stand up, Richard? Thank you.
Yeah, Richard Trotter. I live here in...
We're all deaf.
Oh, okay, now you can hear me. All right. I live over here in Cuna. This is the first time I've ever been here, and I've lived in this area for 20-some years, so my brother dragged me over today. I am a vet, and I'm Navy, 59 through 62, APA 237, troop transport. Proud service, and good to be here.
Well, thank you. We hope you'll come back every month with your brother. All right. Thank you for your service. Okay, over here. Yes.
Ken Smith, and I was stationed at Wilder from 1963 to 69. Spent a couple of tours over in Vietnam. So, and I live here now.
What division of the military are you in?
U.S. Air Force.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir, for coming. It's an honor to have you here. Dick.
Hi, I'm Dick Kropp. I was in the Air Guard out here at Gowan Field for 26 years. Worked on the 102s, the F4s, and a little bit of the A-10s. I didn't know we told jokes here. This is the first time I've been here. Well, anyway, oh, it's clean. One of my few clean jokes. This guy's driving down the country road 30 miles an hour, and he looks out his window, and there's a three-legged chicken running along beside him. So he speeded up to 40, looked out the window, the three-legged chicken's still out there. Speeded up to 50, the chicken took off, went down the road, went into this farmyard. So the guy slammed on his brakes, pulled into the farmyard, and the farmer's standing there. He said, "Hey, did you see a three-legged chicken come through here?" Farmer says, "Oh, yeah." He says, "I raise those." He says, "Well, why do you raise three-legged chickens?" He says, "Well, when I butcher one, I have a drumstick for me, one for my wife, and one for my kid." Guy says, "God, that's a great idea." He said, "By the way, how do they taste?" He said, "I don't know. I never could catch one." Here's another new one.
Another one. Okay, well, that's one of the rare times I let a joke go by without me listening to it first. And you're right, it was okay.
I'm Tom Tracy from Star. Now, I don't know why I have to follow that sort of thing. I'm retired Coast Guard. Are any other Coast Guardsmen here? Probably a minority. Good. I was active duty back in the Great Lakes on an icebreaker, and I was a quartermaster, and then they sent me OCS, and I became an expert at nothing after that, but retired in 99 from the reserves. And it's the first time I've been here other than the Veterans Breakfast last month. My wife and I came, and I was impressed with the place and heard about this breakfast, so it's nice to be here.
Thank you, sir. We hope you'll come every month. It's a great time, the first Tuesday of every month. Yes, this is Bob.
My name is Bob Mortensen. I live in Boise. I really want to introduce my mom, Margaret Mortensen. Mom and Dad used to manage this airport and had the fixed base operation here in the war. And Dad was the flight instructor, Mom was the ground instructor. And so we're just first time here.
Can you stand? Thank you. She's actually going to come one time next year and talk about what that was like here, what those years were like. Here you go.
I just want to welcome all you kids here. I've never been with such a young group before. Just pleases me to know, and I'll see you next year.
Thank you, Margaret. Isn't that awesome? She's going to come and tell us about what those years were like here at Napa. So we're really excited about that. Okay. Where else am I not looking? Over here. Okay, great. Is there someone here that would stand up and give us a testimonial right now about their experiences having been interviewed through our Veterans History Project program? We have a lot of new people here today, and I really want to encourage them to fill out these forms and come in here and allow us to preserve your histories. Okay, could you tell them what it was like?
Yeah, hi, I'm Barry McCahill, served in the Army from 69 to 72 as an Army officer, and I was sort of a Coast Guarder. I've got a master license, a U.S. Coast Guard, so it makes me a merchant marine officer, I think, as well. I had a great experience doing it, and it begins when Carmelita Pope calls you. Is Carmelita here? She's a wonderful, wonderful person and a celebrity in her own right, and then Sue interviews you. And, I came out here thinking, hey, I'll spend an hour, just talking a little bit about my military service. But it's very, very introspective, and you go home saying, wow, I didn't realize just how much military affected me. And so I really would commend all of you to do it. It's worth more than an hour. It's really a lifetime review, and it's incredible. Just briefly, about 3 days later, I went to the school bus conference in Kansas City, Missouri, and I was asked to moderate a Veterans Day panel. And a salute to veterans, and I mentioned that I had just done this and that the Warhawk Museum was doing this for veterans, and the room gave me not a standing ovation, but they all said, oh my God, that is so great. And I said to them all, I said, do it yourself. You don't have to have a Warhawk to do it. If you want to get involved in it, do it. And the featured speaker was not me. I was just the moderator, but Captain Scott O'Grady was the featured speaker, who you may recall was shot down over Bosnia in the mid-90s, and he tells a very compelling story. And talking to him afterward, he said, what a great idea, because most of our stories are forgotten. He says, mine is told because I get hired to come out and tell it. But there's so many great stories among all of you who never get told. So by all means, you have an opportunity that's very rare here. Take advantage of it. It's worth the time. You will come out of it a better person, quite honestly. Thank you, Sue, for doing it.
Thank you. We have a wonderful group of volunteers who are involved in this program who do the interviewing, the filming, the editing. It's just a really strong group of us that believe in it. Bob.
I'm blind, so which way do I look?
You want me to get closer?
No. My name is Bob Odester, and I come from the state of Oregon. I went in the Navy at 17. My first ship was 176 USS Breckenridge, taking troops and bringing prisoners back from Korea, North Korea. And after that, I was on a tin can, which I really loved. I spent, about 18 times I've been across the Pacific Ocean. The further south I've been was Australia, Brisbane. Furthest west I was Egypt. I didn't see anything over there. It was worth looking at. But I spent, we spent 17 years in Pendleton, 17 years in Portland, 17 years in Phoenix, and now we're up here at Boise. And it's been a long time since I seen snow out there.
Well, thank you. We hope you'll come every month, folks. First Tuesday of every month. Where else am I? Who else? Am I missing anybody? Got to wave real hard. Back here. Good. You got to raise your hand. And if you brought somebody with you, please introduce them. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
My name is Ray Gowans. I served with the Air Force. About 3 months ago, we got cleared to actually talk about what we did. I served in Grenada in '83 and got injured over there. And they're finally releasing the Purple Heart and all the stuff that goes with it. Finally, 31 years.
Oh, thank you, sir. We hope you'll bring it here so that we can see it once you receive it. Come back on a First Tuesday and let us all see it and congratulate you for receiving it. Thank you for your service. All right, right here. Okay, here's a new one.
My name is Mark Grothy. We just moved to the Boise area from Casper, Wyoming. I've lived in Wyoming for the last 40 years. I was in the Marine Corps from 64 to 68, in Vietnam 66, 67. I was at Chu Lai with the Marine Corps Air Wing. When I got out of the Marine Corps in 68, I swore I had everything to do with the military again. 78, I joined the Wyoming National Guard as a part-timer. 79, I went back on active duty for 16 years and retired in December of 95. The military has been a very big part of my life. Both of my parents were World War II veterans. My dad was in the Army Air Corps in England, and my mother was in the Army Nurses Corps in the South Pacific. I heard about this particular program yesterday from a gentleman who works over at Cabela's, and I thought I'd come and check it out, and I hope eventually make some friends here. Thanks for having me.
I guarantee you'll make friends here. We all do. It's like a great big giant family. So Steve is one of our major volunteers here, and I understand you brought your father with you. Could you introduce him?
I brought my dad. He's an Air Force veteran. His name's Tom Reinhardt, and I'll let him stand up and talk.
I don't have a whole lot to talk about. In the Air Force, was over in Vietnam in 68, 69. Got to see all the neat rockets come in. That's about it. And made it out of there, no problem. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet. I hope a little bit of it was. Okay, thank you so much, Steve, for bringing in your dad, and thanks for being here. Okay, well, am I missing anybody? We got them all? Okay, before I introduce a speaker that every one of us knows so well, I'm going to let Lance say a couple of words.
Good morning, everybody. You know, it's kind of fun for me to be able to look around the room and see all the veterans that I've been able to take to Washington, D.C. on an honor flight. I mean, the fun part for me is to see that every table just about has somebody that's gone on the honor flight. And, you know, we're gaining on it. The list keeps getting longer, which keeps surprising me. But if you know of somebody that needs to be on that list, make sure they get on it so that we can consider taking them as well. The books are in. I'm going to be passing them out today. So this is the photo book from our flight in September. I think it turned out pretty well. And we're going to set up a table here in front, and we'll get those passed out to you. So all you veterans that went on the honor flight, would you guys do me a favor and just stand up and let's see how many we have left. From all the years, every flight. Fantastic. Thanks so much. And we've got a long way to go, but we're getting it done. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you, Lance. Isn't he a hero? Completely. He really is. He works so hard all year round. Yeah. Not everybody can stand up as fast as you, Bull. No. Yeah. Okay, Chauncey. Where is our Chauncey Reese? We are so happy to have Chauncey come up here today. A lot of you know Chauncey. He's an incredible man. He's been with this museum for over 10 years. He's taught hundreds and, thousands of students, over 10,000 students at this museum about his history during both the end of World War II and in Korea. He was in both the Army Air Corps and he was in the Air Force. He was 18 years old and at a dance December 7th, 1941, when America went to war. And he will be here on December 7th, by the way, with several other veterans in a round table where they'll be sharing their experiences about that on December 7th from 11:30 to 1:30. He was a B-24 bomber instructor at Gowan Field during World War II. And he joined the Idaho Air National Guard, and then he served in Korea. He flew P-40s, P-51s, and the F-86 Sabre jet. And we have all of those planes, those type of planes here in this museum, which is what makes it so exciting for him to be such a good friend and to teach so many kids. He has over 29,840 flying hours in World War II fighters, trainers, bombers, jets, and as a commercial pilot. So I'm not going to speak anymore. I'm going to let Chauncey speak. Here he is, Chauncey. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. My routine will have to change today at a short notice. I have family here today, and I don't dare say some of the things that I would usually tell you. But over here is my wife, Donis, my daughter, Holly, her husband, my good friend Bob and Mary Hall from Glens Ferry. She was a secretary at in our airlines, and Bob came on board as a pilot and married her, and we never forgave him for that. We took him out of the... We hear a lot of jokes. I've heard the best ones this morning because they were not smutty and they were rehearsed, I think. So I'm going to read mine, and then you can comment on it later, much later. A young man named John received a parrot as a gift. Has anyone heard this? Wonderful. The parrot had a bad attitude and an even worse vocabulary. Everything worked out, for the bird's mouth was rude, abracious, and laced with profanity. John tried and tried to change the bird's attitude by consistently saying only polite words, playing soft music, and anything else he could think of out of the clear to clear up the vocabulary of this bird. Finally, John was fed up, and he yelled at the parrot, and the parrot yelled back. John shook the parrot, and the parrot got another and moved to a more rude language. In desperation, John threw the parrot in the freezer. He heard the vocabulary for a little while, and then it got very quiet. And he thought, this man gave me this as a gift. I better get him out of here before he's hurt. So he reached into the freezer, pulled out the parrot, and the parrot was very apologetic. And he said, if I've offended you with any of my rude remarks, I'm very, very sorry. And he went on and on and on about being sorry. And finally he said, would you tell me, what did the turkey do? Well, I'm a New Yorker, so far from the city that I've never picked up the dialect. But I was born up near Canada in Watertown, New York in 1923, and went to school there in Black River, graduated in 1941. When we talk about the Army, Franklin D., was our governor for 4 years before he became president. And we didn't care for him very much. He had married a cousin. He lived in Hyde Park rather than at Albany, the capital. And he came up there in the National Guard summer camp, which was 2 miles from my home. Now that's Fort Drum, where the 10th Mountain Division trains. And we saw him with his cigarette holder, his fedora, and that red cape that he... Well, now, I had to change my mind about him during the war because his acquaintance with Churchill and his ability to get along with people, and the head of the big country that had so much production was a big, big help in World War II. So anyway, we have kids out here, and they said, "What did you do on Pearl Harbor Day?" Well, I live 20 miles from Canada, so the Royal Canadian Band under Guy Lombardo came across the bridge, played in the casinos. Canada had blue law, no dancing, no ball games, no movies on Sunday. So the Canadians all came over to raise hell in our country, and it was fun. We were dancing for 50 cents a head. I could take my girl to Canales and feed her spaghetti and meatballs for 75 cents, put $2 worth of gas in my dad's car so he'd have enough to go to work in the morning, and that was about 10 gallons. So I had money left out of a $5 bill, and that was great. We had a draft board that was made up of a bunch of old cronies, and they'd shut off the enlistments because everybody in northern New York had had enough Army, and they all wanted to go in the Navy. And so they shut off the enlistments, and 16 of us volunteered for induction, and we were going to win the war all by ourselves. Out of the 16, only 2 of them ever met again, and that was over in France. But it was a mess. We thought that when Pearl Harbor was attacked, and I have to get back to that, we thought that we ought to go right after the Japanese. But then we realized in his fireside talks that Roosevelt said, England is the only bulwark between us and Hitler. And if England goes down, then the province of Canada goes down, and Hitler will have worlds of time to build an army in Canada and just come across the river and whip us pretty good. The Central America countries didn't have any leadership at all. So we were convinced finally that we were going that right way. I have to be very careful with my family here that I stick to my notes. But I'm going to probably get off of those in a minute. I took the exam in the reception center at Fort Niagara for aviation cadets. You had to have 2 years of college, and they had deferred that because they needed aircrew so bad. So they had an equivalency exam. And I passed the exam, was waiting to hear something else. They got me out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning for KP, and at 7 o'clock I was on a train headed for Camp Stewart, Georgia, in the anti-aircraft battalion. And I didn't do much in the battalion, but for 9 months I waited for a call to the Air Corps. Finally, the Air Corps team came on base, and I went down and took the exam again. Passed it. Now, we had 4 college kids that had taken the exam at Fort Niagara, and they'd all failed it. So 2 of them went down and took it again and failed it again. But at this time, they believed me. So we went up on maneuvers in Tennessee, Red Army this week, Blue Army the next week. One morning, we had finished digging in this 90-millimeter gun, and tired and weary, and some general in a little airplane spotted somebody's T-shirt hanging on a limb and ruled us bombed out. So we had to pick up and move again. And that was just about it for me. The Air Corps team found me, went to Miami Beach in basic, went to the University of Buffalo to learn how to be an officer and a gentleman and to take physics. I'd never heard of physics before. But I had an instructor who was a physics major and going to be a professor. He helped me in the lab, and in the final exam I beat him by 1 point, which he said was good instructor. And I agree with that. So From Buffalo, we went back to Nashville, and we were classified. If you were dexterous or ambidextrous, you made a good volunteer for bombardier. If you were smarter than I, you made you a navigator, and the rest of us were pilots. After classification, I came back home, and the girl that I had been engaged to thought so much of somebody else that she was going to marry him, and I was heartbroken for a couple months, I guess, and went to Tyndall Field at Florida, started flying the B-24. We learned to fly the formations, we learned to drop the bombs, and we learned long-range navigation. So when I went from there to Fresno, or to Lemoore, California, and met my navigator, and we flew the navigation trainers and learned a lot about the navigation. Then we came to Boise, Idaho, and met the rest of the crew. And I have to tell you this, though my wife has asked me not to, we had a beautiful time, and we arrived in Boise on a Sunday, March the 10th, and they said, you love Boise, 5 name bands every night, wide open gambling, just like Reno, but for God's sakes, don't go to Nampa. They had reference to the Northwest Nazarene College girls who didn't wear any lipstick or jewelry, and they didn't think we ought to go over there. I told that in a Sunday school class when we moved back here to Boise, and one of the girls who had been in the college at that time became very offended. We're good friends today, but I had to tell you that story. Now let me find my notes here. We came to Gowan Field, and we were here about a week, and it started to rain. And it rained every day for 22 straight days. So we couldn't mount big formations. The commander of the base said, I would like you to not consider the big formations. You can wait till you get to England to kill yourself. So we flew some of those. I was a co-pilot on a B-24, and we 4 of us went to the mobile training detachment, and we're teaching each other the systems. They were big 4x8 plywood boards with lighted lines for electric and hydraulic and fuel. And a major came in one night and caught us at that, and he put us in the standardization board, teach the B-24 systems, and that made us instructor pilots too. So we did that. The war in England ended, and we had been talking to combat returnees about some of the bad things that we were teaching in the formations that were getting them killed. So we got some of that changed. But then we moved to Walla Walla, Washington, which was a base like Boise, and we were teaching long-range navigation. In England, you had to climb very quickly up over England before you set sail. The Chet will tell you that. And in the South Pacific, you didn't have to get to altitude until you got over Japan. So you had to get out there a long ways, but then you had to get back. And the B-24 just barely could make it from their bases. So we were learning about running the Pratt & Whitney engines real hot and learning how to lean them and get more miles out of them. They're good engines. During the time I was in Walla Walla, of course, the war in Japan ended, and I want to tell you about the VJ Day. We rented every airplane that the college airport had next door to Walla Walla and flew to McCall. And at McCall, one of our girlfriends, Dad owned a house down by the river, or by the lake. And we set the house on fire that night and got the fire department around it. And we had really a gay time. So if you think the war was drudgery, I'll prove to you in a few moments that it wasn't a drudgery for me at all. I'm needing a drink. I married a girl in Walla Walla from Boise, and I became an engineering officer there. I had a B-24, a B-17, a B-25, 2 AC-6s, about 4 P-40s, and an L-5. And one day I flew every one of them. So I wasn't very much of an engineering officer except to trust in the guys to have them fix them right. My son-in-law outranks me, and he was a maintenance officer in the Air Force for 22 years, so I don't go into that too much either. One day, the crew chief had an AT-6 catch on fire, induction fire, and I jumped up on the wing to make sure he had an idle cut off and keep right on grinding it and blow the fire out. And it caught and blew me off the wing, hurt my left knee really bad. And they put me in the hospital up at Fort George Wright and wanted to do surgery. I didn't want them to do that, and they said, if we don't do surgery, you'll never get back on flying status. So the Idaho wife and I decided that we'd get out. We came here about a week and then drove a little 35 Ford all the way across the country to Syracuse. I flew in a flying school for a year and a half and went through a Syracuse winter, and she said, I'm making plans to go back to Idaho. I don't know what you're going to do. But I agreed with her that the buffalo snow that we've just heard about, we had that every year in Syracuse. So they had a 6-lane highway around the lake that they just quit plowing. And the New York State Police would be out there on snowshoes with a stick looking into every one of those humps in the snow, because it probably was a car that had been run out of gas and people still in it. They found a lot of them that way. Anyway, we came back out here 1947. She asked me not to fly. And, I'd been educated as a stenographer. And during the war, the women did that, and the men liked them a lot better than they did us. So I didn't have a job to come back to, but I had a new career as a pilot. So now I was asked not to fly. So I started working at Standard Oil Station, and the guard guys came in to get their gas in there and teased me into coming into the Idaho Air National Guard. Now, the fighter squadron was full, but the utility flight had room for me, and I flew the C-47 and the A-26 and the AT-6s, and pulled the targets with the A-26. One day, I got on the airplane, the crew chief and I got on the airplane. I had a test hop for a new carburetor. We figured we'd do that on the way to the range. And I'd never seen the operator in the back on the reel. We let out 1,000 feet of cable with a 6x30 target on it after we got airborne. So I never saw him. And during the flight out over Saley Creek, they shot the weight off of the target, and it was flopping around. He called me and he said, I don't think I can get the airplane or the target back in the airplane. And I said, well, just cut it off. So he had big bolt cutters, cut it off, and I joined up with the P-51s and wrestled with them all the way back in. After a while, I flew back there on a trip up to Walla Walla, and he'd been sitting on a plywood cover over the turret, no seat, no safety belt, and I had thrown him all over the back of that airplane, and I knew it, but I never saw him. we came up to a 40th reunion of the Guard. I was on the airline by then, and there was this colonel going like this to me, and I went down and they introduced me to Bernie Fisher. He had been my tow reel operator. Now he was a Congressional Medal of Honor winner and the air advisor at the Guard. And he said, Chauncey, if it takes me all my life, I'm going to get rid of my inhibitions, and I'm going to get even with you. Well, he was a pretty smart guy, but he wasn't smart enough to do that. We got called on active duty in February 1951, went to Moody Field, Georgia, down at Valdosta. I had guarded President Roosevelt's train through there as a artilleryman, so I was familiar a little bit with the town. But a couple of things happened. On the way down, we lost a P-51 at Austin, Texas, Bergstrom, and it was because that fuselage tank held 85 gallons of high-octane fuel, and you had to use about half of it before the airplane was flyable, really. It had a big aft GG. The tail was heavy. You pull it around in a turn, and I know that that's what happened to him because he didn't have too much time in the airplane, and we made a big turn right after takeoff, and he just went on in. But we flew the P-51 down there in Georgia, escorting B-29s. We were in SAC. Well, we had an indefinite statement that said that we would stay in forever. And I hadn't signed it. And the colonel said, he broadcast that decision that I had made in front of the whole pilot group that morning and said, I want to take everybody with us in active duty, so I want you to sign that. And I said, no, I don't think so. He said, why not? I said, I heard that a fighter pilot had a great time, and if you think I'm having any fun flying escort to a B-29, with LeMay doesn't want you anywhere near it, doesn't think that you're necessary, and I'm not going to stay in and do that. He said to anybody else in here, and a man here in the back who was my buddy, Don Starkey, raised his hand, and the two of us were outcasts in the squadron from there on, but that's okay. They sent the two of us to Korea first. We didn't want to stay in, but we sent to Korea. Don was an air controller with the 45th Infantry Division, and I was an air controller with the Prisons of Pats, the Canadian Brigade, and we're up on the line 88 days. Started out at a 30-day assignment, extended to 60, and they kept us up on the line 88 days. When I first got up there on Easter Sunday, 1952, the Canadian commandant met me and he said, what would you have to drink? We have everything. And I said, well, how about some Canadian Club and soda? And he said, you drink bourbon. And I said, I guess I don't anymore. So I called Don over at the 45th Division. He came over with a trailer behind the Jeep and took all our bourbon away from us so we didn't have any more. I flew 30 missions in a AT-6. Now, we were hot P-51 pilots, Don and I, and we let everybody know that we were. But the only P-51s I saw were flown by the South Africans in close support. But we were pretty good in the AT-6, too, in that the commander didn't want us to do the fighter tactics at landings and takeoffs that we were doing because it was a bad influence on the rest. And it did kill a couple of guys trying to do it, I guess. One was a B-36 commander, and another one was a Wright-Patterson test pilot on the F-94C. And they rolled him up in a ball on a wet PSP runway, and we did quit that stuff after that. But trying to make fighters out of the AT-6, and we did a pretty good job of that. we got back home and well, we lived in Korea at two places, and I had a brother-in-law and sister-in-law in Yokohama. So on our R&R, Don and I went over to Yokohama and stayed with my sister and brother-in-law. Went to some off-duty, off-limits clubs, you know, after dark. And one of the clubs had a sign out front that said, "If you think you know how to have a good time, just try to step in here." And we walked in, and everybody met a girl. There was a girl to sit with you, pour your drinks, help you with your food, and light your cigarettes and everything. And Don made a little pass at this girl, and she called him a skivvy boy. I got another kick out of him when we went to Korea. We rode a train from Yokohama down to Iwakuni on the very south end of Japan, then flew over to Busan, and then they took us in a 6x6 truck because we couldn't land at night with the lights on to draw mortar fare. So we rode in that up to Pyeongtaek. But we were in this beautiful restaurant, and Don said, "Let's have some of that Kobe beef." So he's got that language assistant, you know, he's down below his table, and he's trying to order that beef. And this beautiful, beautiful Japanese girl standing there smiling. When he got all through, she said, "How would you like it cooked, sir?" And that was another mark on Don Starkey. He's here today to bear it. She had been interned after the war when she'd gone over there with her dad. She was from Seattle, graduate of the university there, and that was a great time. Anyway, we get over to Korea, and we have a houseboy, and Don's teaching him English out of a primer, and we're trying to learn a little Korean from him, but he learned a lot more English than we did, and so we had this little Korean boy. One day we had moved now after we'd been up on the line for a long time, and we'd moved up to Chuncheon, up the Han River, a 4,000-foot strip, PSP, with a mountain right in the middle of the run and the traffic pattern. And this little Korean boy wanted to go to a wedding. Now the difference between a North Korean and a South Korean is a 38th parallel. So he wanted to go to his cousin's wedding. And I said, well, where is that? Well, he said, it's just across the line. I need 3 days. I said, okay. So when he got back, I asked him how he'd gone and where he'd been. And we knew there was a great big minefield there. I said, don't you know that that was a minefield? He said, everybody knows where the mines are. And they went through there in the dark. And he'd gotten his cousin, a North Korean, married, and then he came back home. So anyway, we got back here to the States, and Don was with a telephone company, and he went to Pocatello. And I stayed here, and they asked me to be the flying training supervisor in the new squadron. We didn't have any airplanes, and they'd kept our nice P-51s on active duty, but they've located some AT-6s down in San Angelo, Texas. So we were ferried down there in the airline, pick up an AT-6, and I flew it to George Air Force Base, where we had our rest of our squadron was still on active duty. And the pay officer said, you got an extra day of per diem in here and I can't pay you for it. And I said, well, then you can go get the airplanes yourself. And we finally got them pay for it one day. I think it was $13. But anyway, I've overlooked a important part of this. While we were at Moody, I was flying formation on a guy and a turkey buzzard hit the airplane. And there was a bulletproof glass in the windshield, about an inch and a half thick. And it knocked it out of the out of the frame, and the turkey went through and hit my head. I was flying off of the leader, and out went the canopy, and just beginning of a lot of trouble. So I got it back on the base, a flat tire on the tail wheel, and in an hour you couldn't get anywhere near that airplane. That stunk so bad. But anyway, while we were there at Moody, we flew one big formation, about 8 of us, went down the west coast of Florida, out the Keys, and back up the east coast, and joined up with some B-29s over Waycross, Georgia. And we've been under a 1,500-foot ceiling all day. And we found a hole and climbed up through that. When we got to 10,000 feet, my engine quit. And I couldn't get it started. But we had just come by Jacksonville Airport, so a guy told me, he said, I'll go fly back with you, make sure you get in all right. Now, in those days in SAC, Strategic Air Command, if you had a major accident, your squadron commander and your wing commander had to go to Omaha and stand in front of General LeMay and explain it. And my boss was already up there. We'd had a gear incident and a bailout, so he'd had to be up there. They called him and said, don't come home, because we may have another reason for you to stay. But anyway, I dead stick that airplane about 20 miles into Jacksonville and found that the mixture control rod had broken, and I never really got it in to run. That was the position of the mixture control. And it had jiggled back to idle cutoff in 3 hours of flying, and the engine was good, but just wouldn't run out without fuel. I tweaked a little bit on the primer to get some more mileage out of it, and never even had to drop the tanks. So now I'm a hero for about 3 days. And I needed that because I had engineered a golf match during duty hours, and as we rode into town, there was another highway that went out to the country club, and there was a fence there and a stile across the fence, and we'd park our cars there. We weren't supposed to play till 4 o'clock. And we'd go across and play 3 holes into the club, and by that time it was about 4 o'clock, and we'd sign up and play around back to the car and go home. Well, I got a hole-in-one on the second hole, and a group behind us, you know, Moody had been tied up, Valdosta had been in dire straits financially, and everything that we did, we brought a lot of payroll into the town, and it hit the radio. So there was a group behind us that ran right to the country club, said one of the officers got a hole-in-one, and we're going to have to buy him drinks, and went on the radio. Well, the base commander heard it on the radio, called my commander, said, what the hell's going on down there? And you know the rest of the story. I needed that. We came out here after the war to Boise, and well, first of all, I better tell you the rest of the story. We had a static display at Jacksonville, so they asked me to go down there, or told me to go down there, and you stand by your airplane about 3 hours, and the crowd all comes out from town. That's the airport that I had dead sticked into. So on the way down, I had a little cigarette and oxygen mask on. You couldn't see your knees, you know. And I rolled into the line down there, took the oxygen mask off, and a little spark had hit my flying suit. The only thing between my belly button and my crotch was a zipper. And my nice white underwear was showing, and I rolled up to the line, and it was a girl parking me, and I held her back, and she had a sweater around her waist. So I offered to buy the sweater, but she loaned it to me. So I put the sweater around me and went in the hangar for 3 hours and came back out and flew back home. So I'm trying to make fun out of this because war is a hell of a mess. You're away from home. You're with people you don't know very well. You think you're a lot better than some of them who are supervising you. And I don't know that that goes for every veteran here, but it did for me. And so I had to make fun every once in a while, or probably get on the train and come home AWOL. But I had a lot of fun in different times. I got in a lot of trouble. Willing to do that, to have fun. Wasn't a bad soldier. Just like to have a little fun once in a while. So I'll have to get it on my notes again. We finally found some P-51s, and a couple of them were TFs, had a back seat pilot and controls back there. And that replaced the fuselage tank, but you couldn't burn that pilot down to get him any lighter, so it was all aft CG all the time. So had a Navy pilot in there, and he said, I'd like to do a slow roll. I said, okay. So we're up over Lucky Peak Dam, I guess, and he rolled it over here and then pushed it back, and the bolt that held my seatbelt broke. And I'm down in the canopy trying to shinny back into the cockpit down the stick, got it rolled over finally and tied the seatbelt to the bracing in the seat and brought him back in. I said, why did you do that? And he said, well, I didn't think I could have room enough to finish the roll. So he didn't last long after that. We were going to get the jets, and a T-33 landed out here one morning, and the instructor from Montana was here. We had a ping pong tournament, and he was pretty good, so we came down here in the morning, played ping pong all day, and then went back home at night. And the T-33 pilot let us have the airplane, so I got in. He said, come on, we'll fly it. I'll never forget. Never been that fast in my life. I made a turn and gained 5,000 feet. And I thought, boy, this is okay. Then the old man said, we're getting the F-86s, and I'm going to be the first one to fly the F-86. Well, one came in on Saturday, and he didn't work Saturday, so I flew it. And, now I got an airplane, I don't have to pull the power back, go as fast as I want to, flies just as well on its side or on its back as it does straight up. And went through a snowstorm down here by Wilder. I rolled it up to avoid the snowstorm and flew right straight through it like that. So I had a great time. We had another man and I flying gunnery one morning out over Sailor Creek, and we ran together and had to use our ejection seats. He got out too late, couldn't get his chute open. Everything was manual in those days. And I'm sitting up there at 9,000 feet with, now parachute never really fits you till you have to use one. So I had these straps that were in the wrong place. And I was trying to get back into the seat of the parachute, and it waved back and forth, and I said, okay, don't collapse on me. But I could sing tenor pretty good after that for 2 or 3 days. Anyway, I want to wind this up by telling you that I flew the F-86, the F-94, the F-89, this airplane that's parked on the stilts over here in the hangar. I flew that many times, and the kids get a kick out of that. They asked me if I had landed it there, and I'm tempted, but I couldn't say that. Anyway, this commander who gave me so much trouble, or I gave so much trouble to, his family asked me to officiate at his funeral, which I was glad to do. I loved the man very much. He was smarter than I, and I knew it. And I had a great time in the military. Went on the airline, flew 26 years, and like she said, I tried to get to 30,000 hours, but I'll probably never get there. But anyway, it's been a pleasure to be here with you. It's been a pleasure to be here at Warhawk for 10 years, teaching these kids. And one of their history books, World War II, had a page and a half. And I got a hold of the teacher, and I said, when you go out of here, you're going to know something about World War II. And the next year, her students knew it pretty well. We work hard at teaching the kids. And this is a very successful program here. Very successful. We're all proud to be a part of it. And I want you to know that you're always welcome. I hope you'll come back often. We have lots of stuff in here. It'll take you a month to see it all. And please come back again. Thank you very much.
Do we have any questions? He did a great job, didn't he? It's pretty thorough. Now you can see why the kids love him so much. We average about 3,000 school kids a year that come through here, and it's a real honor to have these men. If you're interested at all in participating in that program, it's called Bridging the Generations, where our veterans actually are the ones who teach the kids here. And if you're interested in being a part of that program, we have World War II, Korea, Vietnam, current day veterans who teach the kids. So whatever your history is, we'd love to have you share it with the children that come here every year. So just let me know. Call me, call Heather, just call the museum and let us know, because we really can always use more of you veterans here, men and women both. So I have a gift for Chauncey that I'll have to go get and give to him, but it's one of our coins, so I didn't have it in my pocket. I thought I did. But thank you again so much for coming out here, for being such a great part of this museum. So that's it for today. Don't forget about Sunday, December 7th out here. It should be really a great day. It'll be free coffee and cookies, and then we'll have our panel of veterans that'll be talking about where they were, who they were, and that sort of thing from 11:30 to 1:30. So encourage your friends and family to come too. It's a great day of remembrance for our country. Have a great month. Happy holidays to all of you, and I hope you'll come back and see us often. So thanks. I'll see you for sure in January 2015. Oh, and this magazine, Salute, a tribute to Vietnam veterans, is free. It's been brought out by Cloverdale, and there are copies of it sitting out on the desk in the gift shop. So take one home. It's a wonderful magazine. Thank you.